Hey gang, it's Chuck Esposito and Jason McCormick here from Red Rock Racing Sports for our weekly betting segment. It was an exciting week. It's hard to believe that we just finished week 6 in pro football and week 7 in college football. Another really interesting week in college football. I'm going to turn it over to Jason. He's going to touch on some of these big games we had this past weekend.
Well, I'm going to touch on the Big 12 because it just seems like if you're struggling in college football, the Big 12 is the conference you need to take a look at because the underdogs in the Big 12 have been absolutely fantastic. 2 weeks ago, Texas was able to be a home underdog and knock off Oklahoma. This week, you have West Virginia go to Iowa State, lose outright. Oklahoma State goes to Kansas State, loses outright. Texas Tech goes on the road and beats TCU. So there are upsets galore in the Big 12, and there's a huge Big 12 matchup this week with Oklahoma coming off their bye week. They're a 7.5, even 8-point favorite on the road at TCU. Again, TCU had the upset this week. So take a look at the Big 12 if you're struggling in college football. The upsets seem to be brewing in the Big 12. A lot of crazy things happening there. Games to look for this week, some of the things that I was looking to highlight: Washington State and Oregon. Washington State is 6-0 against the point spread this year. They are hosting Oregon, who's coming off the huge win over Washington. An interesting game to look at. Utah State, who just blew out UNLV, they are also 6-0 against the point spread. They travel to Wyoming this week, who is 1-6 against the point spread. They're a huge 16-point favorite, but again, another team that's doing fantastic against the spread. And the ugly of the ugly, the UConn Huskies, they are 0-6 against the point spread. They travel to South Florida this week. They're 0-6, and they're losing by an average of 33 points a game.
What's the spread in that game?
Yeah, they travel to South Florida where they're 33-point underdogs. So those are some of the things to look for in this college football this week, and some of those craziness things that are happening in the Big 12. What about the pros? What have you seen happen in the pros?
Interesting week in the pros. Arguably the biggest game was the Sunday night game. Unbelievable handle. A total that got up to 60 points on that game between the Chiefs and the Patriots last night. Interesting in that game, a little educational piece maybe, is that the hook, the almighty hook, that game was 3.5. The Patriots were a 3.5-point favorite. Maybe if you bet down, you actually lay a little bit of a price there and you bought down to 3, you're able to get a push and get your money refunded. If not, and you happen to have the Patriots last night, you got beat by that hook. So I think there's some interesting phrases this week. Money line too. That Steeler-Bengal game was one of the heavily bet games this weekend. There was a lot of action on the Steelers, being a live dog in that game. They were getting 2.5 points and even went down from there. And if you were sitting with the Steelers late in that game with the spread, you looked pretty good when Cincy took the lead. But if you had them on the money line to win outright, you needed that late touchdown by Antonio Brown to actually get the money line in. So that's a little piece too. Then if you look at the push, a game that falls right on the number, that late touchdown by the Cardinals, what did it cause? A push. Depending on where you bet that game, it could have been 9.5, 10, or 10.5. If you had 10 or late 10, it fell on the push. And I think the last thing you look at is that backdoor cover, which we refer to as when a team comes down and scores a really late touchdown when they weren't covering the point spread, and they did. And that happened in the Denver Ram game. The Rams have been a powerhouse as far as the bettors go. They back that team every single week. They backed them again yesterday in a tough spot in Denver. They were covering that game late. What did Denver do? They got the turnover. They came down and scored, and we call that a backdoor cover. So I think those are some interesting phrases and interesting games the way it worked out this week. Going into week 7, though, there are some huge games on the board. You've got Chicago and New England playing each other, where the Bears are a home dog. They come off that disappointing loss last week against Miami. You've got a big matchup between two teams that are really playing well, and maybe they're kind of not the teams everyone's talking about right now, but that's the Ravens and Saints. Two teams that maybe will be playing in February, but I think that big Sunday night game that's been flexed now between the Chiefs and the Bengals is going to draw a lot of action. Both teams are in first place in their respective divisions. Think about the Chiefs now. They played the first place Jags. Jags are in first place at the time. They played first place New England, and now they play first place Cincinnati. So kind of a tough test there for Kansas City, but I think those are the 3 big games that you look at for week 7. But it's not just the game. We put up some pretty cool props with pro football as well, Jim.
Yeah, before I get to the props, 2 other games I think that are key this week. Number 1, we have to get up super early on Sunday morning. We've got a 6:30 in the morning kickoff, Titans-Chargers.
We love it. We want a 6:30 game every weekend.
They're playing in London, so early game there. Again, the Chargers, kind of everybody's sleeping on the Chargers. Their 2 losses are to the Chiefs and the Rams. They destroyed Cleveland this week, and now we'll see what they do in London. But we got to get up 6:30 in the morning there. And then I think
their last 2 wins were the Raiders and the Browns. So not two great teams, but they were the team everybody bet going into the season. They were kind of that sleeper vote team that everybody bet and thought would win the AFC West.
The other game for me this week is, again, looking at kind of ugliness and in an ugly division, being that AFC South. You've got Jacksonville and the Texans playing this week, and Texans struggled against Buffalo, able to get the late touchdown to score. Jacksonville got their doors blown off by the Cowboys. An upset there. It was a great game for the books, as a lot of money came in on Jacksonville this week. But that's a huge game in the AFC South. We'll see if Jacksonville can get the ship right.
I think there's one more, too, in the NFC East. Huge rivalry. Redskins-Cowboys. Anytime those two teams play, Redskins come in at 3-2 in first place in the NFC East. Cowboys are 3-3, played really well yesterday. Philly's 3-3. I think that's an interesting matchup in the NFC East. Then let's talk about those props.
Yeah, the props. So we've got 2 key props that we put up. We actually had it up for about 2 or 3 weeks. The Rams to go undefeated. You can get 8-1 on the Rams to go undefeated. They're the team that's leading the team in power ranking. They're the class of the NFL right now, so we put a prop up on them to go undefeated. Come on in, see if you can get down on that prop. And we also, as of this morning, put up an early Super Bowl line. So we've made the NFC a 3.5-point favorite over the AFC in the Super Bowl with a huge total of 56.5. Obviously, this game's going to be indoors.
We saw the points last night.
In Atlanta. But again, for those of you that are coming into town, you can get down on the Super Bowl right now, be able to enjoy when you go back home, have action on the Super Bowl.
I think when you look at that prop with the Rams, next week they play the 49ers, which should be a game they should win. But after that, they've got a couple of tough games coming up against Green Bay and New Orleans. That might be 2 of those games that you think about a little bit before they have that game in Mexico City a little bit later in the season against the Kansas City Chiefs. So kind of interesting there. As far as that prop goes, it's based on the Rams in the NFC. In the AFC, maybe Patriots, Chiefs, but not a lot of attention right now to the Saints, Ravens, and Eagles, maybe even the Vikings who are right there too. So some interest there. It's not only about football, though. I mean, we've got the Golden Knights. Great action, great props every night that the Golden Knights play. They went 2-3 on that road trip, but able to get that win in Philly, who would come in here and won and kind of salvage that trip and go 2-3, I think was big for the Knights. And then pro basketball starts on Tuesday night too, so we'll have all the major sports going simultaneously at the same time. And then you've got baseball postseason.
Yeah, these baseball games have been absolutely fantastic. I think that you're sitting on the edge of your seat watching these games. The pitching matchups, the bullpens, the managerial decisions have been absolutely fantastic. I think that we are in for 2 long series. Obviously, both series tied up at 1. I think that this is going to be potentially 7-game series and just leads into what would be a great World Series as we hit the end of October, going into November. The only thing I didn't like was watching that game in cold weather in Boston last night. So we moved to LA, we moved to Houston. Hopefully get to see a little bit warmer baseball, maybe see a little bit more runs scored. But the baseball games have been absolutely fantastic, and huge opportunity to get down and get your mobile app opened up again. The special here in the month of October is to sign up for STN Mobile, and you can earn up to a $100 bonus for your sign up. So get in today, get signed up for the mobile app.
And don't forget about the drink specials where you can spin, win, and play and have some fun. So come on down. It should be an exciting week. Again, you've got basketball, baseball, hockey, football, college football. Exciting for us. Don't have the STN mobile app. Come on down. We'll get you signed up in a matter of minutes. Look forward to chatting with you guys next week for our weekly betting segment.
I tell you, are you open to anybody that comes into Sunset or Red Rock at 6:30 in the morning? You give them a free beer?
I'll give them a free beer, absolutely.
All right, so all of our Facebook fans, come and see me on Sunday morning, 6:30, I'll buy you a beer.
And if you prefer a coffee, I'll buy you a coffee too, but you have your choice. So come on in, have some fun. We'll have the game on all the screens. It'll be exciting. Love this early football games that start for us guys. So look forward to chatting with you next week.